and welcome back to my YouTube channel. Okay, it is the morning time. I never really film videos in the morning. I just got my shower, and also Milo literally just attacked me out of nowhere. He literally just ran at me. He's in one of them teenage moods today. So that's what this is on my arm. But I'm very excited for today's video because I just had the most brain-numbing morning of my life. I spent it watching the Hype House show on Netflix. And I want to come on and give you my thoughts, my takes, my opinions on it, because this show has been really hyped up and a lot of people are already talking about it. And it features, our favorite people like Nikita Dragon and Larray and the other ones that no one really knows the name of. And you know what? My opinion going into this show, the Hype House show, we talked about it months and months ago whenever they first teased it and whenever they did the trailer. Like, we've kind of kept consistent talking about this, and I do want to kind of come on here and give you my honest opinion of it. And if you've watched the show, great, give me your opinions, and if you haven't, I'm going to dumb down the explanation because I watched this show and realized just how little people I know. Like, how I don't know any of these influencers, except for, like, Nikita. So much drama happens with Nikita. They talk about Nikita's blackfishing. They talk about Nikita's COVID party. Everything's addressed, right? So many different dramas happen. So stay with me with this video because the show has had such a messy rollout, and all the people who are in the show, minus maybe Nikita, are angry with the show. So we have a lot of drama coming up that features about this show. So if anything, hear me out on this one. If you don't know these people, I didn't know them either because there's so much drama that has came from this show and we kind of need to be briefed on it. So, there is the owner, the leader of the Hype House. He's called Thomas. I'm just going to go full names with everyone. Overall, before we get into that, this show, it was bad, but it could have been worse. This show could have been worse. And I say that because it didn't feel as scripted as what I thought it was going to be whenever I went into this. Negatives. The show focuses so heavily on cancel culture and how these people are the victims of cancel culture, but it never really gets into why these people are canceled. It kind of touches upon it. And also the show is just the biggest wealth divide flex I've ever seen. These people have absolutely no idea of real life whatsoever. And I mean, good for them. They're 17 to 20 and they're living in mansions. But the reason I'm saying that is because a common denominator drama throughout this entire show is that they all live in the Hype House, which is the mansion. Now, the Hype House is a bunch of members from TikTok all in one content house. And also in the show, they kind of talk about how revolutionary this idea is of that we've all these content creators in this one house. No. And I'm like, shit, if you know anything, and I even knew this, there have been so many content houses through Vine, to YouTube, to Snapchat, to all of these different things, right? So calling the Hype House the most revolutionary thing in the world is really, it's not the take that I would have went for. But they live in this huge mansion, and there's a lot of people in it, right? It's kind of like their school, high school, college experience, because they're all that kind of age, right? All they literally do not pay for the house. They don't pay for the house. So if you've ever seen these rich kids in all of their TikToks or on YouTube, or if we've ever talked about it, or Nikita posting, YouTube videos and drama, and she's in this big mansion, they do not pay for it. They literally do not pay for it. And this is a common denominator problem throughout the entire show because Thomas, who's the owner, says about how they don't pay for the house. Bang Energy, which is the energy drink, actually pays for the house. And how they pay Bang Energy back for the house is they have to do one sponsored video a month, about Bang Energy, the little drink. Ooh, what? Listen, I am going to let my jealousy come out here. These people get to live in huge mansions, 2 mansions. One is the Hype House mansion, and then the others is Lil Huddy's mansion, who dated Charlie D'Amelio, and that was his full drama. They stay in these mansions without paying rent, utilities, nothing. They literally just buy things. That's what they use their money on because Bang Energy pays for this mansion. Now, again, that's not the most revolutionary idea in the world, But there's a common problem throughout the entire show that Thomas, the owner or the founder of the Hype House, is angry because he's struggling to get the Hype House members to film one sponsored post a month. Like, he's saying how lazy everyone in the house is because they're refusing to, like, sit down and hold up a drink or do a sponsored post. So they're literally all staying in this mansion and they are not even fulfilling the one thing that they need to do to have their literal rent paid for them, which is just a video sponsor. So he's very angry about that. And overall, Thomas, I didn't have an opinion of him going into it. I didn't know who he was. I've heard that there's a lot of drama with him and that he's not the most liked. But I do need to say that out of the entire show, he is the most likable. He's the most likable, and there's a guy called Alex Warren, I think it is, who's literally just like a knockoff David Dobrik. But they make that joke as well, but he's like eerily similar to David Dobrik. He's like a family-friendly David Dobrik, like does all the pranks and laughs the same way, and that's his skits and films all his friends and blah, blah, blah. So it's important to note that those were the most likable ones. The least likable in this show was Larray. Larray was horrible throughout this entire show. Larray, I have mixed opinions on as it is because him and Nikita were doing the literal like hotspot like parties during the peak pandemic last year. And they were getting called out for it and they didn't really care at all. They were just kind of like, oh, well, we're young and we're going to party and we have to party because of our job. Well, the show mainly focuses around that as well and really in every episode paints a different person of the Hype House as the worst in the world, and that's why they're all so angry about it. But Larray is so heavily featured throughout this entire show as like the villain, and the reason for that is because pretty quickly into the show you realize that there's a drama happens. Nikita's sitting down, and again, this is one of the biggest things that happens on the show. Nikita's sitting down and she gets a phone call. She picks up the phone call and it's basically her management, like very angry, very confused, because Larray got literally COVID. He got it and he went to a party like right after it, like finding out he got it, and he went to the party. And he was blaming Nikita Dragon for taking him to the party and wanting him to go to the party. So there was this full back and forth. Turns out Nikita didn't know anything about it, and Larray was just throwing her under the bus. And one of the big things that has happened because of this is Larray is saying how the producers said they weren't going to use that storyline at all. Because before this, people didn't know that Larray actually got it because him and Nikita and James Charles, they were all getting accused of going to these parties during the hot spots in LA whenever it was happening last year. And they never addressed it. They continued going to parties. And now we have it on the record that he literally got it and then continued to go to parties. Now, he has came out since that and said that that was not the truth and that's fabricated. So that's his dilemma that he's now dealing with. And he's saying that it's not the truth. So I want you to keep that in mind as well, right? But we now have it set in stone. We made so many videos. I don't know if you watched them on my channel. It was like summer of 2020 and 2021 as well, where they were all going to these parties and we were like, they're going to get it. They're going to give it to other people. Turns out they all did. But anyway, Nikita didn't know anything about it and they have a confrontational moment about it. And it turns out it was one big misunderstanding. But I don't give a fuck if it was one big misunderstanding because Larray still went to party after he literally got diagnosed with this. Anyway. He's basically painted as the villain throughout the show because of this. Now, he's spoken up and said that they weren't going to use the storyline, and I believe him when they said that, because in the Hype House, if you don't know, there was a member called Sienna May, and her boyfriend, ex-boyfriend, Jack, is in the show, and he's the most boring person ever. But anyway, there was obviously them featured heavily throughout the show, and because it focuses on the other relationships between Mia and Thomas, who are dating, again, the founders, and just like hit and miss, like little flirty things here and there, and Alex Warren and his girlfriend get a fake marriage. Yeah, they literally, that's one of the big dramas as well, that Alex doesn't want to get married, and his girlfriend is really angry at him for that, and she's like, he's just living in his childhood, and I want to move on, and I want to be adult, and I want to, you know, progress to the next part of our life. And it's important to note that she's talking about her boyfriend that's literally like only 20 years old, if that. I think he's literally just like 20 or 21 or something like that. And anyway, the show opens up that this person, Alex, had not a good childhood, that his dad died and his mom was an alcoholic, and he's kind of living his childhood now. You know, he has all this money, he's living in a mansion, and again, he was one of the more favorable people whenever I was watching this, and it was kind of just about the fact that he's finally getting to experience what he wanted to whenever he was younger. And again, oh my God, whenever I was a child, I wasn't dreaming of a mansion. I was just dreaming of going to a Selena Gomez concert. But anyway, this was his dreams and he's living it out now. And the girlfriend comes off really, really, really bad. And they kind of paint Alex in this show as being like negative because he doesn't want to get married to his girlfriend. And she's putting all this pressure on him. There's all this pressure because they're like, oh, we should be getting married by now because we've been dating for 2 years and stuff. And again, keep in mind, he's literally 20 years old, which is just so deranged to me that they're even considering marriage. It's scary. I'm like a year off of that. My gosh. So Alex then says that he wants to get fake married to his girlfriend on a YouTube video because they do all these pranks and they do all these skits because his views are down, and they agree to do it. And then it turns into this big thing that the girlfriend's really angry because she actually wants to get married, even though she agreed to doing the prank. That's something that happens, right? But going back to Nikita and Larray, they have this heart-to-heart, and it turns out then that, Larray wasn't supposed to be used as the villain. What I was saying was Sienna May and Jack, again, Jack's featured in the show, she got cut out of the show completely. Now, she's in basically every single scene, but you will not see her. She was at the filming, she was included in the skits, but they have removed her completely from the show. You're probably like, why? There was a lot of accusations from Jack and from the friends about Sienna being incredibly inappropriate with Jack. I'm not going to get into it further in this video because I'm doing a review of the show and it's lighthearted. But there were a lot of really serious accusations and they've completely cut her from the show. So it's now being said that they've now, taken out the drama with Sienna and Jack to now being Larray testing positive and still going to parties and not caring about it. And he really got thrown under the bus and a lot of people are sympathizing with him. I have no sympathy for him because he found out he did it. He went to a party and the entire production, they have an entire episode that's like, production was shut down for 2 days because 2 weeks because Larray tested positive and all like this. And it's like, I have no sympathy for any of these people, right? Now, I want to touch upon that they introduced Nikita in this show kind of like the queen bee, and she's kind of like the ruler of all. And Nikita kind of gets a couple like sob stories here and there. A couple of them I actually was listening to her and I felt sorry for her. She was saying about, I've always criticized Nikita for being like 25, 26 in a house with all these 17-year-olds and 20-year-olds. Nikita says that because she transitioned whenever she was already out of college, that she feels that she's finally getting to experience the college experience as Nikita, not as whatever her dead name was, and we don't even need to get into that. But she's finally feeling that she can have a high school college experience as Nikita, comfortable, surrounded by other people as it would have been years and years ago. I completely get that. However, they really do hype up Nikita to be God in this show, and they briefly touch upon Nikita blackfishing, and it becomes this dramatic issue of a show, which it is, like an episode. And the only reason I'm saying this, you'll hear me out. They do Nikita blackfishing, and Larray's really angry because Larray is Nikita's friend, and he's getting a lot of backlash from just people of color because he's, what's the word? He's enabling Nikita to blackfish and Photoshop her pictures and tan too dark and appropriate cultures and do different box braids and Asian appropriation, just all these different things, right? And they're getting angry at Larray. So the episode is really dramatic that Larray's going to have this big confrontation with Nikita, and Nikita's finally going to get called out for blackfishing, and it puts up all these news headlines that like, Nikita's blackfishing. And then it finally builds up to this confrontation between Larray and Nikita. And let me tell you, somehow Nikita is able to get herself out of that conversation, and it's not even dramatic anymore because Nikita's like, oh, like people are always just looking for something to cancel me by. And the conversation just goes. So they hype up entire episodes for like some drama that's going to happen. And it never really happens. Or if it does, it's half-assed. So Larray goes to sit down with Nikita and they end up just hugging. And they're like, oh, like we'll move on, just do better next time. So nothing really comes from that as well. Now, another thing that happens is Nikita talks about her drama with Trisha Paytas because when she was filming the show, she was actively having drama with Trisha, which I'm going to revisit for a video. There were a lot of tweets and it was a full mess. And Trisha was making fun of Nikita and Nikita was making fun of Trisha, and they were trying to expose each other for who was the most racist and who was the most blackfishing and whitefishing and Asian appropriating. And it was just all this mess, right? Anyways, Nikita is in the car in this scene and she's talking about this little girl, Trisha Paytas. By the way, if you're wondering where the clips are, it's a Netflix show and they'll completely strike my channel. So I'm trying to like audibly like kind of tell you how I would tell a friend about this. She's in the car and she's like, this little girl, Trisha's trying to downplay my success. And she's saying that, you know, she's making fun of me for getting a season 2 of my Snapchat show. And she's like, yeah, you have a show on Snapchat and I'm just going to get back to filming my Netflix show. So she's kind of like one-up Trisha. But in that scene, Nikita is completely texting and driving the entire scene. Like, literally, I'm filming on my phone. But she's driving, the camera's here, and she's on her phone and, like, driving. And I'm like, y'all kept that in a Netflix show? Literally, Nikita trying to have this shady moment where she's literally, like, texting and driving. It's really not the move. And I don't even think she's driving in a Tesla. It's not even a self-driving car. I may be wrong, but that doesn't excuse it on the road at all. That's something that happens. Now, one of the other big dramas that happens is Thomas is really pissed off because Chase, who's Lil Huddy, who dated Charlie D'Amelio, so many names, basically is having his rent paid for in his mansion, a separate mansion from the Hype House, through these sponsored posts. But Chase isn't willing to do them anymore and is refusing to do them. And he keeps having these heart-to-hearts with him throughout all 8 episodes. And again, it's literally the most repetitive thing ever. There's not one heart-to-heart that's different from the one in the previous episode where he thinks that Chase is being lazy, he's not fulfilling his thing. And then Chase is like, all right, well, I'll just pay for my own rent. And it's like back and forth and back and forth. So that's one of the other big dramas that happens. And Chase is really painted as the villain in a lot of episodes because he's being lazy. And also in a lot of episodes, they have like group meetings where they'll have everyone in the Hype House, like including Nikita and all these people, and they're literally just talking shit about Lil Huddy and Chase for being lazy. And then they're also getting called out for it by Thomas in like a side room where he's filming on his own, saying that they're also being lazy. So they're all just talking shit about each other and it's messy. Another member in it is Vinnie. Now you may know Vinnie from TikTok. He's kind of like attractive guy. That's it. That's really all you need to know. He has six packs, and he's attractive. And that's literally just how they introduce him in this show. And there's a lot of fights between him and the members of the Hype House because they say that he's being lazy, he doesn't want to do content with them whenever, it doesn't even make sense that he's in the Hype House because he's a Twitch streamer. So for him to be, you know, doing all these TikToks with these people doesn't make sense because the only content he really does, and he says this throughout, is streaming video games or doing thirst traps on TikTok. And he says that it would be really awkward to do thirst traps with all of these other men or all these other women or just his best friends. So then that drama kind of comes and goes and they're angry with him and they're angry with everyone. Another thing throughout the show is that Mia, who's Thomas's boyfriend, is really angry at everyone in the house because the house is literally like a hoarding mess and disgusting and dirty, and there's dishes, and she's basically, as I look at my dishes that are undone, will not focus on that, you only see here, baby, this is clean here. And she's angry that no one's fulfilling even just like cleanliness things around the house, and it really literally is just like a bunch of kids in a house because it's so messy and just disgusting. And I'm trying to think of, like, other things that happen in the show. Whenever I tell you that, like, the show could have been worse, that does not mean the show's good. The show is not good. It really does make the Hype House seem like the most revolutionary thing in the world, and it is not. The show is not exciting. There is a lot of scripted moments. There's a lot of not scripted moments, but it is just, like, rich people, you're not rich, you're gonna watch the rich live. And also, there's a scene in it, I haven't seen people talking about this, Alex, who's one of the ones that I ended up liking, because I did go into the show with opinions on different people, even though I didn't know who he was, but other people. There's a scene where he's lying in his bed, and the ever most relatable throughout this entire show, he's like, I'm gonna buy a Tesla. I wanna buy a Tesla. I'm bored. And his girlfriend's the one who wants to get married. No, don't buy a Tesla. And they're this back. He's like, I'm gonna buy one. I'm gonna buy one. I'm gonna buy one right now. And she's like, you've already bought one, and you have one on the way. And he's like, I'm gonna buy one. And she's like, you haven't even paid your taxes yet. Like, I'm looking out for you. Pay your taxes and then you can do it. And that got me angry. These bitches are so late on paying their tax, if they even pay them. All these, like, we literally have the girlfriend on a Netflix show being like, pay your taxes before you get, I'm looking out for you, please. And I'm like, oh, if I have to pay my taxes, if my bank has to go down to zero, bitch, theirs does too. They don't get to buy a Tesla. Oh, I would have loved to have spent my tax money on anything else. But yeah, I haven't really seen people talk about that because it happens so quickly in the show. But they're like, don't buy another one because you haven't even paid your taxes and your taxes are late. And I'm like, this is not relatable. Well, it would have been if I didn't want to pay my tax. Well, I didn't want to pay them, but I had to pay them. I probably would have got put in jail, right? Probably. My accountant wouldn't have let me do that. I do have an accountant. Isn't that so professional? I have an accountant. Wow. Yeah, the show overall was just snooze. And I can't believe I spent my morning watching it. And I would not change anything for the world. Because now I've watched it and I know that I'm not missing out on anything. Oh, and also, Thomas throughout the show, who's the owner again, is like, I'm going to shut down the Hype House because no one's fulfilling their sponsorship deals. We're late on deals. We're not doing anything correctly. And then the last episode is that he's going to get everyone together for one last party, again, during COVID times. And he's going to tell everyone that he's shutting down the Hype House. And the episode's so dramatic, like, Hype House shut down, and da-da-da-da, and he's going to end it now. And it does these montage of all these memories of, like, Nikita and Larray and all the Hype House members where they're having good times. And it's, like, looking back on the good times of the Hype House. And then the show ends with, oh, I'm not going to end it. Literally, like, an entire episode. It's like, I'm going to end it. And then the last, like, sentence is like, oh, I'm not going to end it. This is too good. Oi. So, since the show has aired, basically everyone has spoken up about how they feel that they've been done dirty by Netflix. And we're going to get to that, and there's so much. It's literally the juiciest shit that's happening right now, and I'm actually interested in it because it's, like, actually, like, quite good because I'm seeing, like, a bunch of rich kids, like, not get their way, and I'm like, hee 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 hee. So, we're definitely going to get to that, and we're going to have a jolly old time going through that. So, if you want to watch it, you'll probably feel very dumb. The show is mind-numbing. Anyways, I want to know your opinion on this. If you've watched it, let me know. From my summary and all the different things, they're the only points. Really, that's it. I love you. Thank you for watching this video, and I will see you in my next one. Thank you for hanging out with me, and bye. Mwah.